have goals or ideas that you would love to see happen this year? There are a lot of practices that embrace creating a vision, like setting an intention, making a New Year's resolution, or creating a vision board. But the Bible also speaks to this in the book of Proverbs a lot. It's not enough to hope that your marriage goes the direction you want it to. Let's be intentional this year with where you want your marriage to go. This is a great way to set yourself up and your marriage up for success in 2022. If you're new to this show, we drop a new episode every Tuesday. So be sure to hit subscribe in whatever podcast app you're using so you can join us every week. So, Dr. Kim, I want to hear about how you and Nancy do this. Do you have any practices or traditions around the new year?
Well, we do. Our anniversary is on January 2nd, and so has always been a time for us to stop and be thankful and to look to the new year ahead. We talk about the past year. We look about things that stand out. We talk about what each one of us would like the new year to look like, and I think that's kind of cool because sometimes Nancy will bring up something I think, I had no idea you thought about that. And so then it kind of gives us a chance to say, okay, then to set kind of our goals and what do we want this next year to look like, and then we can evaluate it a year later or as we go along, how are we doing on this, depending on what it is that we're looking at. So yeah, I think just sitting down, taking time, thinking about the past year and looking forward to the new year. And we don't know what that'll, and not that you're going to, but I think just that exercise is helpful. Obviously, when we worked into 2020, I was so excited for 2020, a new decade, everything else, and all the stuff I had planned. And just like everybody else, by the middle of March, that it was all on the back burner, way on the back burner, because we were in something with uncharted waters that we'd never been in before. But I think that whole process then, and at that point, we just had to make some adjustments. What are really big goals? Can we still accomplish those? And what do we need to set aside for a while?
Yeah, that's so true. I know we kind of skipped our vision time in 2020 by accident. I think we were busy or something. And then it was like, well, if we'd taken the time, we would have had to scrap it all. But I think there's something too to dreaming a little bigger than just your circumstances. And I think that there's we'll probably get into this more, but I think there's something about just the way that having some kind of hope or things to look forward to can really energize us.
Absolutely.
It's really fun about this process.
I think so. I think that's a great point. I think having things to look forward to are important for all of us. And so kind of planning, it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't mean you have to go around the world on a trip or something. No, it can be all kinds of things that you just look forward to together. And for some, if you've got like 4 kids at home like you, it may be just you and Brian getting away for a few days, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the last things we had set as one of our goals and visions was like, let's get some getaways, some trips. And then it was like, oh, man.
Yeah, we can barely walk out and go to the beach, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there was no getting away. But I love this kind of process because I love the verse in Proverbs 29:18. In the Message version, it says, if people can't see what God is doing, they stumble all over themselves. But when they attend to what he reveals, they are most blessed. So I feel like that practice of attending, paying attention to what he's put in front of us is really helpful and fruitful.
I think we always have to take it back to him when we're doing those things, and the thankfulness to him that we just even have life, but the ways and we've all been blessed in ways, and just being conscious of that, I think, as we move forward to a new year is helpful.
I think that's great. It's a really, really powerful lens on the New Year's. Gratitude. It's going to set you up for good. That's
Absolutely.
Cool. So what do you guys do? Do you do like a New Year's resolution or goal, vision? What do you do?
We take different times of the year, we take communion together. And New Year's Eve is one of those times that we usually do that. And it's been a tradition. I think Nancy came out of Episcopal and I came out of Methodist background. And I don't think either one of us ever thought about that you could take communion at home. You did at church, but you didn't. And realizing, well, there's no reason that we can't do this, so we do. We bought a little communion deal, a little cup and a little deal, and we have grape juice, or you could put wine, wherever you want, and not whatever you want. Grape juice, wine, probably stick with that, and then crackers, and do that. And it's simple, but it's so meaningful, and I think it helps us always to focus on God, how good God is, and how important that is. Oh, that's really good. Hang on. My deal just made me.
Do I have
I,
a problem?
yeah, all of a sudden my note said, you've got to re sign in. And it
Oh
stopped right in
gosh.
the middle of things.
Wow. That's 2 for 2 now. What's going on?
All right. Let me pick back up.
Okay. Yeah, you guys.
Okay. I think it's important to keep our focus on how good God is,
Mm,
that He's given us this new year. In the book Simple Faith by Pastor Mike Todd, he talks about how God has given us an imagination. We're created in His image, and the word image comes out of imagination. And so Mike talks about dreaming big, but then putting it before God for Him to purify. And I love that part of it because I think, we have all these dreams and I think, wow, but sometimes I don't take it back and let God purify it. Let Him see, what do you want to do with this? My main dreams maybe really seem great to me or to Nancy, but it may not be God's best for us. So when we bring our dreams to Him, then He can change the focus, the feelings, the future, and be very intentional about then where He leads us after that. So I loved that concept that Pastor Mike did.
yeah, that's super cool. I love that too because then it can take you just out of where you are or what you've seen. It takes you out of like problems or issues, but it's like what's the bigger picture here that God has for us?
And I think a lot of times as we don't use our imaginations a lot. I think with kids, I mean, you look at our kids. I can remember coming home one day and Julie was like 4 and she was just totally lost in herself in the front yard. She was doing cartwheels. She was doing make believe. I just sat there in my car and watched her for a while. And I thought we lose that. We lose that imagination. And I think that's a gift God's given us. And I don't think
That's
it's
good.
supposed to quit. When God says be like children. I can't remember like exact verse there, but basically, I think a lot of that is in that being have an imagination, being thankful, grateful, taking things before
Mhm.
God, and I think we don't do that enough.
That's good. That's good. I think Brian said he just preached on that Sunday about having faith like a child, but I didn't hear it because I was in the kids ministry with the children.
With the
It's great. It's a good time.
yeah, yeah,
But
that's
that's
good.
that's something we actually are working with our teens on that right now to kind of have an imagination of what kind of person you want to be when you grow up, what kind of man, what kind of woman, because they kind of get lost in their struggle for independence and trying to be
Yeah,
get this or do that and have all these things in their mind. But we'll say, hey, who do you want to become? Like, just let's
mm.
picture you in 10, 20 years. What kind of man, what kind of woman do you want to become? And they think it's weird, of course. They're like, Mom, Dad, this is weird. And even better, Brian will ask their friends, "What kind of man do you want to become?" And they're like, "What is happening?" They think it's so weird. He's like, "No, for real." Like, but there's something to that because if you let them sit in the awkwardness for a second, they'll start to actually answer you. I
yeah.
want to be somebody who's, known for being kind or whatever. And you're kind of tapping into that imagination. Get out of your side of yourself.
And I think that's so important when you think about it and verbalize it. Then I think there's a much better chance of that happening. You know,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, really good.
So, how has having an intention or vision for your year impacted your marriage?
I think it's helped us stay focused. I
Mhm.
think it's helped us feel like we are on the same team. One of the things that I learned from somebody years ago that made a big difference for me is that God's not going to tell us different things. He's not a God of confusion. So He's not going to tell Nancy one thing and me another that He's going
Mm,
to tell us. And so if we don't line up on something, it's probably because of us. It's certainly not because of God. And so, I think that was really important. One of the other things that God taught me that I think has really helped me in this process is that Nancy asked a lot of questions. And early on, when I'd throw an idea out and she'd ask questions, it really frustrated me because I thought she didn't like that idea. She's throwing cold water on it, all that kind of stuff. And then I realized that her questions were her way of understanding my idea so she could get on the same team with me, so she could support. She wasn't able to verbalize that, and I was going the other direction with it. And finally, I heard someone talking about a friend of mine that has developed a personality test, and he was giving an example kind of like that. And I thought, that's us. That's
Hmm.
exactly what she's trying to do. Change my whole perspective there. And so then I'm able to listen better. I'm able to stay focused to realize she really is on my team all the time.
Oh, that's good. That's really
It
good.
really helped.
Yeah, that's good because I'm like Nancy in that. I used to not want to do this kind of like vision conversation because in our marriage, that's like Brian's, like it's his wheelhouse. He's a big picture vision guy, kind of forward motion. And I'm a little bit more, I can't really see the bigger picture where we're going. So he
Hmm.
would bring stuff up and I'm like, whoa, whoa. I'm not against it. I just can't see that vision. And so you're talking about that. And I have a million questions because I'm always curious. I always want to ask a million questions and about everything. But with this, I'm trying to get my head around it.
Yeah,
But if he can't see that as a supportive thing, then that's going to be a real issue because that's,
absolutely.
it's I'm not against it. I just don't understand. So trying to get in line with that takes a
That's
little practice.
Yeah, and I think just what you said, they're just saying, "Hey, I love supporting you. I love your ideas, but you get there quicker than I do. So help me understand this." And
Yeah.
and and then I think he can be all in on that, and he's not thinking she's trying to, you know, put this idea down. No, she wants to come alongside me. So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
probably more prevalent than we realize in relationships.
I do think about just a few recent conversations with other couple friends where it's like, I didn't want to tell her because I just already threw out 5 things last week and and it can be hard to keep up when you're not in the same kind of pace of those ideas.
Yep,
But I think if you were only charging ahead or if you were never moving, those are problems too. So it's a great
absolutely,
balance.
absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So I think for me the one another setback to doing this kind of like vision conversation or intention conversation was that I have a lot of ideas too.
Yeah,
But if I get them all out there, I start to realize we can't act on all of them. You just can't do them all. It's just part of
sure.
it. And so I think for a long time, I didn't really want to verbalize them because I didn't want to realize um, that we are limited. We can't do everything.
And so it was easier to keep it as a possibility than to
Yeah.
realize
Yeah,
you
I
can't do
kind
it.
of want to be able to like keep everything on the table. But I mean, you could probably see where this is going. If you keep it on the table inside your mind, you're still not doing it.
Right, right,
If it's
exactly. You
not
just
happening.
yeah, yeah,
So I would kind of want to, in my own way, my ideas were on a different kind of scale. Like, okay, I want to do a garden. I want to do chickens. I want to have this. I want to have, all these small ideas. Just can't do every single thing. But if we're being strategic together, we can do a lot more than either one of us would be doing alone.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He can build a chicken coop.
Exactly. And he did actually.
Yeah, I
We have
mean,
it now.
no, I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really good. And I think
Mhm.
too, one thing that we talk about quite a bit too is rating things. So, you
Mm.
can take those dreams and rate them. Okay, this really is a 10. And so then when you're communicating that to Brian or he's communicating something to you, yeah, this is something I'd love to do, but it probably right now is a 2, but I don't want to give up on it right now. But this is a
Yeah.
10. So this is what I'd really like us to focus on as a team. So I think that kind of helps sometime. You're not taking the 2 off the table. You're just kind of saying, let's get some of these other things and maybe the 2 doesn't become important anymore, or it goes up the ladder and all of a sudden it's an 8 or something like that.
Yeah, sure. That's a really good point because you can't have a top priority on everything.
You can't make
That's
everything a 10.
Mhm.
You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. So, we kinda touched on this with, before, but is it hard to get on the same page with each of your different ideas?
I think for us, learning to listen to each other well really helped us in that and to
Mhm.
empathize more with each other. And I think when we began to do that, I think it was easier because early on, honestly, I'd say in my mind, that's kind of a dumb idea. Why does she want to do that? I would never say that out loud.
Good.
And yeah. And so I would realize, probably didn't say dumb idea, but yeah, I might have. But I think when I began to listen better, I began to hear her better. And then just trying to say, why is this important to her? And then God help me understand this. That helped me get on the same page with it. And it's not like every idea that Nancy has that I'm 100% passionate about it,
Mhm.
but I get it. And I realize it's important to her. And so then because it's important to her, I can make it important to me. And with God's help, I can even go farther with that. And so I think when we discount each other's ideas, we do each other a disservice. Because I
Mm,
think if I would have said some of those things out loud or just ignored some of her ideas, she'd quit bringing me ideas.
hmm.
And that loses a part of our marriage. That loses a connection point. That makes us not the team that I want us to be. And so I think sometimes in the minute, the moment we get frustrated and maybe we say, "Oh my gosh, here we go again." But in the big picture, we need to do those things because that's what's
Yeah.
going to build what we want and the kind of relationship we want.
I think that's so good too, because what I'm hearing you say is that part of it is creating sort of a safe environment to share those
Yeah.
ideas. And that's already a win, because if you're able to connect on that level, that's a really important part of marriage. I think that's a great thing to be cultivating.
Yeah, absolutely. And even something, say your spouse says, I want us to go around the world next year. And we're thinking, we are barely meeting ends this year. But you can talk about it and say, God, that would be fun. And if we can't do it next year, what if we make that as a goal and that as things get better for us financially, we start setting aside money so we can reach that goal. So then all of a sudden you're working on it together
Mm,
instead of just saying, well, it's a dumb, you know that we don't have 10 cents left at the end of the month. Now go ahead and further that dream and put it out there and maybe put some legs on it that will make it happen someday.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So you're finding ways to share that vision still.
Yes, yes, and not just throw cold water on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, so this is a little bit more practical, but what do you think is the difference between creating a vision and setting
Mm.
goals?
For me, vision creating is fun. I love to
Mhm,
do that. I love to do it with Awesome Marriage. I love to do it in our marriage. I love to do it with my grandkids. I love to dream. But then when I really lock into something, setting those goals is what helps me follow through with that. Uh, what's the goal? How does it move our vision forward? Who does what in the situation? So for me, the vision is the dream. The setting goals is how we carry out that dream.
oh, that's good. That's really good. So it's kinda putting some steps in place.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
yeah. And I think I don't know. I think sometimes I think for me, it's better if I have the vision before I set goals. And I think sometimes
mhm,
people set goals without the vision, and then they can't figure out why we don't want to follow through with those goals. I
mhm.
think if your goals develop out of this vision that you've brought before God and brought before your spouse, and it makes sense, and everybody's on board with it, then putting the steps to it, the goals to it, make all that makes sense, and it's easier to make it happen.
Yeah, that's
That's
good.
that's for me. That's the way it works.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that, because then you're just it's all on the same page. It's not separate goals going in separate trajectories, but you're
Right.
working together. That's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how do you see, when you counsel couples, how do you see vision or a lack of vision impacting couples?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get into ruts in a
Mm,
marriage. You do the same thing over and over, and you got kids, and you do the routines with them and work, and you have dinner, maybe together, maybe not, go to bed and start over again. A lot of us get into that. And so I think it's easy to get in that rut. I think it's easy to get lazy in our marriage. Well, we're not fighting all the time and we're still having sex every once in a while and things aren't that bad. But then we realize another year's passed and we really did nothing. But that's really not true because a marriage is always moving and your
mm,
marriage is even moving forward or backward. And so when we get stuck in ruts, when we get lazy with our marriage, we're not moving it forward, so we're moving it backwards. And so I think it impacts us a lot that we need to have a picture of what we want our marriage to look like together. And then we do the things each week, day, month, year to make those things happen.
yeah, that's so good. That's
And
really
when we
good.
don't do it, it's just kind of like we're fumbling around,
Yeah.
and not really where are we going with this thing? And I think
Mhm.
it also makes us more vulnerable.
Mm,
If my part of my vision is that I'm gonna love Nancy more every single year, and I'm gonna pray for my sexual desire to be for no one but her, that vision of that helps me follow through with the things to make that happen.
yeah, that's good. We have, one of our good friends has on his savings account, the little avatar picture he set was 2 Adirondack chairs. And when he sees that, it reminds him that he wants to be sitting with his wife looking at the sunset when they're using that retirement savings someday in the future. And it's like,
That's
what's
cool.
yeah, it's really cool, because it's a simple picture of like this is what we're working for this whole time, is to still be together.
I think as we're talking about this, one of the things that bothers me a lot is how many divorces are in the first few years or year of
Mm,
marriage. And I think some of that may be because couples don't develop that vision together, and
mm,
short term and long term. And if you
mhm,
do, then I think that puts roots into your marriage. I think it gives you a purpose for your marriage. And if you don't
mhm,
have that, and things are just kind of going, you're doing the routine for 2 or 3 years, and you think, well, I'm kind of tired of this. No,
yeah,
but if you have a goal, you may be doing the routine, but you also have your vision, and you also know what you're doing, and you've put these avatars on your check. And so every time you write a check, you look at
mhm.
that, if people write checks anymore, and
Some
but you
probably
may
do.
just have to put this check up there. So,
Right.
uh, but yeah, I think that all that goes together in trying to build an awesome marriage. And if you don't really have a purpose for your marriage or a vision for it,
Mhm.
y- you're not giving, it's harder for me to have a vision and give up on it than just to have nothing and just say, okay, I'm walking out the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true, because I think that for me or for us in our marriage, what I see is if we don't take time to set a vision or to kind of dream together, um, we just kind of go through all these activities. We feel busy all the time. We're in the season with our kids having a lot of activities. What we've had to do is we've kind of had to change the vision changes a little bit because we're in a different season.
Yeah.
And so in
Yeah.
this season, we're like, okay, we're going to a lot of high school sporting events. We're gonna have fun with this together. It's not something we necessarily thought would be part of our,
Hmm.
our weekends or whatever. But when we think about it in a little bigger picture, we can say, okay, we're not doing as many like date nights together. Maybe we're doing a date lunch, a date day, but in this short season of having kids with all these activities, we're going to build that into our vision that we can be present with them, get to know their friends, get to know what they're doing, and have fun with it together instead of going, oh, I got to go here. Oh, so kind of bringing in that sense of like, all right, we're going to do this with intention, and we're still going to prioritize our marriage by finding times we can spend together and not just saying, well, we can't do it, too busy,
Yeah.
but getting a little more creative has helped us.
I love what you said when you used the word present, because I think a lot of
Mm.
times we don't do that real well, to be
Mhm.
present with where we are at this time, whoever's in front of us, and really embracing that and what God has for you in that moment, and not always looking forward to, okay, they'll be gone in 2 years, so we'll
Right.
have Friday nights back again or whatever, because you just wanna embrace and enjoy it. And then I think for us, because our kids were very active, and so we did all those things, and we tried to be present with it. And then when they went off to college, it was, sure, there's a little sadness there, but it was like, "Okay, we didn't miss that. We didn't miss
Yeah.
that time." We don't have the regret that I hear a couple of our friends talking about, that their kids are gone and they missed out on this. No, we really embraced that and did those things. And so I think being present wherever God has you is so important, and I love that you
Mhm.
said that.
That's a good encouragement, because that's where I wanna be. I wanna be able to say, we were present. We weren't, you know, overboard. There were times when we said, "No, we're gonna go on a date tonight." But there are times when we say, "This is really where we wanna be," because we wanna be in this particular season, doing this season well, in line with the vision.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Um, but, at the same time, I think we've done almost it almost sounds like the opposite of what I'm saying, but in other seasons, we've said, like, we're only gonna sign up our kids for soccer if they are all on the same practice, at the same time, because we're fine with doing one night that they all go and one day for games. We're not okay with doing 4 different nights in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
I
was something we were very intentional about at other times.
I think that's a good point for every couple to decide. And the more
Mhm.
kids you have, the more I think you need to be intentional about that.
Mhm.
We want so much time for our kids at home, and we want them to have
Mhm.
enough free play time. And how does that work? Okay, so it's going to work best if we have everybody be on a team that play. Yeah, the practice is the same
Mhm.
day, and the games. So yeah, I think those are things that it's really good for a couple to look at. Because I think it can get out of hand, because my
Yeah.
kids wanted to do everything. I mean, if we'd let them, they'd been on, they would have tried every sport, and they tried a lot of them, but, and all this kind of stuff. And so I think you finally have to realize, okay, it's time we've exposed you to some things. Now you pick and
Mm,
go
mhm.
forward and try to continue to do the things that our kids say now, that, our Sunday nights were always sacred for family, and we
Mhm.
had fun together, and we cooked out or ate something or whatever, like game, whatever it was. And those are the things they talk about. And they don't talk about, well, you took me to all my soccer practices or
Mhm.
baseball practices. They talk about the family times.
Oh, that's
And
so cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I love that.
that's good. So, can a couple create some vision together, even if they have a really different outlook on goal setting? Like if one is a planner, the other one's really spontaneous. How can they work together in that?
I think you got to put God in it. I think
Mhm.
because God knows us better than we know ourselves, then that to know that God put you together for a reason. So He knew your differences going into
Mm,
this, and that I think He wanted us to learn to play to each other's strengths and come alongside us in different weaknesses. And so we encourage each other, we support each other. And so to value those differences, to value that one's a planner and the other's more spontaneous. Okay, how do we make that work together? And I think you can. I think it takes some work sometimes, but I think for me, I'm real spontaneous. Nancy would probably be more of a planner. I think she learned over time to love the spontaneity, to
mhm.
just and to go with it, to just say, we're really dropping everything, and we're doing that. We're leaving. Yes, yeah, okay. And so I think you kind of learn that out. And there's other times that I had to say, I want to go do this. I want that. Yeah, I want to be spontaneous. And she said, we really have this commitment, and we really to decide together to work on this. And so you balance each other out in that.
That's so good. I love what you're saying too, because I feel like one of the best parts of this whole practice is the fact that God has something in each marriage that nobody else can ever emulate or replicate. Like every
Yeah,
marriage brings a very unique gift to the world. And a lot of times it is like the actual differences, like the two different people that God's brought together making this one marriage. And that makes the ability to like bring something different, some kind of legacy or gift. Um, and it's not like a specific like thing, but it's
yeah,
it's what you're bringing to the world that you really can't get to if you're not able to embrace each other's differences.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
well said. Yeah, it's and sometimes we spend a lot of early marriage fighting our differences. And
Yeah.
it's and if we would have really given in, and I would have been who Nancy wanted me to be and should be who I wanted to be, we would have really messed it up bad.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
had to continue to finally see that there's value in the way God created this person, even though they're different from me. And that does
Mhm.
take some work,
Mhm.
because I think most couples, and when I talk to premier couples, one of the things I always hear from, oh, we're so much alike.
Yeah.
And I go,
Yeah.
yeah, you are. And God does that so you'll date and so you'll get married and you attract each other. But you're going to find out you're so different in so many ways, and that is totally okay. That's how you grow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think that's really good because it's taking it always taking it back to that team mindset of like
absolutely.
we can do things together. We could never do on our own.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what you said too, because when we stop and think that there's nobody else like me, there's nobody else created like Nancy, and we come
Mhm.
together, no one else can ever have the marriage we have. No one else can have the marriage that you and
Mhm.
Brian have. And how special that is.
Mhm.
That God designed it that way, and you guys can do and accomplish things that nobody else can do because of who you two are. And it's just, to me, there's so many cool things about God, but just that He would design us that way and create us that way is,
Mhm.
it's just, I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's energizing too, because it's like, well, man, I don't want to miss that. I don't want to get stuck in these little dumb arguments and miss out on this bigger picture that we could be part of, you know?
Absolutely. So good.
That's cool. So so for couples who haven't done a lot of vision setting, there's a few ways you could do this. One way is we mentioned last episode our annual marriage check-in, which is a resource that you get for free when you sign up for Dr. Kim's weekly marriage multiplier email. And that the marriage multiplier has a weekly thought, a challenge, and a resource and a question for your marriage. And I love some of those questions are kind of going to get you thinking, outside
Yeah.
of the box. It's not just it's all kinds of different categories. So that's one way to do it. And then what are some other ways? Do you have any other ideas or ways that you've done some kind of goal vision setting?
Yeah, I think those are really good. One of the things I have couples do in number situations, and this one would fit on this, is have each one of them write down 5 things they want for their marriage in the new year,
Mm,
and then go back and rate them Okay, this is a 10, this is an 8. I love to have this, but it's probably 3 right now. And then put your list together and look at your 10s or 8s or 9s, and then say, okay, can we agree on these? Which ones do we want to pick and move forward with? So it's just a way to get you thinking about it, jump started, and kind of have some things that you can, a vision that you can put some goals around.
That's cool. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's good. One way when we did this last before COVID, we had a date night where we got this big whiteboard.
Yeah.
Just big whiteboard, had like good snacks, good food, and just made it a fun thing and just kind of were dreaming and scheming. And we didn't even try to do goals. We just did vision. And it was like
That's
just whatever you want to put on that whiteboard, we'll start there. And that doesn't mean anything has to be, accomplished tonight, but that
that's
was
cool.
yeah, that was a fun way to do it.
So you did it at home. You didn't drag your whiteboard into a restaurant.
We actually went to the church office.
You
There's a
did?
giant we
Oh,
have 3. It's a whole wall of
oh,
whiteboards.
that's awesome.
Yeah. If you have an office, you can get into effective. But
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. Yeah, it was fun. That's fun. So, this has been a really kind of inspiring and encouraging conversation, Dr. Kim. Do you have any final piece of advice about this
It
for our
does me
listeners?
too. I mean, so many things I continue to learn, and I realize some of the things we talk about that I kind of let slide and stuff. And
Hmm.
so I think it gives me some renewed energy for what I want to do with Nancy for this new year and some conversations we need to have. And so hopefully it's encouraged you guys to do that too. That's really what I would want out of this, that you decide we're going to be much more intentional this year with our marriage than we've ever been before. And you'll never regret that. You'll never regret it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And one final thing that makes me think of as well, I just talked about the marriage multiplier. We also have the daily one thing email that Dr. Kim sends out with every weekday one super simple thing you can do intentionally to build up your marriage. And the heart behind that is really just a very doable way to continue investing in your marriage each day. So if you like the podcast, please do us a favor today. Leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. It's a gift to us, and it also helps more couples find the show so they can also begin working on building an awesome marriage. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to us by emailing at info@awesomemarriage.com. Have a great day and do something awesome for your marriage today.